they need to explain to you. Please cheer like you've never cheered before. Where's she gone? She left, is she? Or she be there? Please welcome Clare Johnson!
Good evening, everybody. Brilliant to be here this evening. I'm so delighted to be able to come and talk to you. And I'm just looking at the timer now because obviously that's already been going through, so I'm going to have to make sure I don't speak for too long. So boo me when you've had enough. Oh, who did that? Now I'm going to start with a gratuitous selfie moment. So what I want you to do is just all grab your phones and I want you to take a selfie. Now if you don't want to be in a photo, now's the time to dive under the table. I am also going to take one. So everybody's smiling. There we go. So hopefully you've all taken a photo to capture the moment of the evening on your phone. And I want you to think about what you've just done there. You have been able to, using a bit of technology, capture this moment in time. And that will stay on your phone for as long as you have your phone. If you send it to cloud storage because you save your photographs in a cloud storage container, it will stay on that container for as long as you have that container. That's truly amazing. That's what I love about technology. That this piece of equipment, which is really just metal and glass and plastic, can capture everything in all its colour. Think of the hardware that's in there. Think of the software, the people who've designed the applications that mean I can change the colour. I can turn it into a black and white photo if I want to, just at the click of a button. And think about, if I want to, later on, send that to Twitter and share with my followers, that within seconds of doing that, somebody from across the world can see this photo. That is truly amazing. And, you know, when you think about that in terms of ones and zeros and how that flies through the air, how does that even happen? That's what really excites me about technology. But what also really excites me is the way that technology has to be secured. You don't want that photo to get into the wrong hands. You don't want all the other things that are on your phone to get into the wrong hands. And so cybersecurity is all about protecting that information. And that takes a lot of people because there's the hardware side of it, there's the software and applications, and there's all the infrastructure that sits within that. So I am Clare Johnson. I'm a cyber capability consultant for a company called ITSUS Consulting, who are known for working in secure communications and networking, and my job there is to grow their cybersecurity services. I'm also the founder of Women in Cyber Wales, so I'm going to talk to you about that in a moment. But I thought I'd start with a picture of me and my cat, because my cat is much better looking than me. This is Bob. I have got 20 years of working in the academic sector, first of all in FE and then in higher education. But I'm also a woman. I'm a mother. I have 3 lovely children. I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, 6 chickens, and about 100,000 bees. I'm also a terrible overthinker and a worrier. And the Technocamps team will know this because last week I was like, oh, I'm not sure if my talk is right. Will you look at my slides and see what you think? I play the piano, and in fact my undergraduate degree is in music, not in technology at all. And as you'll already have read there, I am guilty of singing very loudly in the car when something comes on the radio that I like. But I try to do that when I'm on my own. Now, when I was asked to do this talk, I thought, I know, I'll do my talk and tell my life through books, the books that have influenced me. And then I quickly realised that in the middle of my career, when I was teaching BTEC IT and network fundamentals, those books aren't really that inspiring. So I decided to abandon that, but actually what I have done is I've sort of bookended, there's a little bit of a pun there, my talk with some books that I did find influential when I was a child, and some much more recently. So here's my career plan when I was very young. Because I was into music, I thought, I want to be a composer. In fact, what I really wanted to do was write film music and see my name in the credits at the end of a feature film. I never achieved that. I also fancied being a solicitor for a little while, until I spent a day in a law court on work experience and found it one of the most boring things I've ever done in my life. I fancied being a newsreader, or the continuity announcer, the person that sort of introduces all the programmes in the evening, in between. But the newsreader, you have to be a journalist first, and I didn't fancy that. So for a short while, I thought I'll be a jingle writer, a bit like a composer, but much easier, much shorter writing. Those are things that I fancied doing. And when I'm going back to this book theme, I thought, okay, well, I need to start with what really influenced me as a child. And actually, I was really, really big into puzzles. I know it sounds a bit sad, really, but logic problems, word searches, any sorts of puzzles, magic, anything like that, I was really, really into that. And there was an author at the time who I had several of their books, and I thought this was one of the most brilliant people on the planet. I think he had a television programme at the time too, and that was Giles Brandreth, who's still around today, on Gogglebox now I see him. And when I was looking for books by Giles Brandreth, from the era when I was a child, this book popped up, The Big Book of Secrets. And this immediately brought back loads of memories, because this was one of my favourite books as a child. And what was in that book? Secret puzzles, ciphers, cryptography, dead drops, you name it, anything spy related, it was in there. So it almost looks like the universe had my career mapped out long before I even knew cybersecurity was a thing. The other book that I found really influenced me as a child is the ZX81 Basic Programming Manual. Now, this gives my age away, but when I was 11, my dad brought home a ZX81 computer, and I was blown away by it. The smell of it, the feel of it, the touch-sensitive, which wasn't touch-sensitive keyboard, the memory pack that sat on the back that made it fall over half the time because it was too heavy for the computer. But what I liked about this device was that I could make it do things. I could tap bits of code in and it would spit an answer out. I got it to work out people's ages at one point, and then got my parents in to try it out. And if they were over a certain age, it said, "You're really old," which I thought was brilliant. But the thing about this computer was it taught me so many skills. When you switched it on, it didn't do anything. It was a black screen with a white flashing cursor. To get it to do anything, I had to program it, and that's why I taught myself how to program. And there weren't lessons, there wasn't YouTube, there was just this book. So I sat there and I learned how to program. And of course I learned the logic that goes with programming. But I also learned how to be creative with it. Because when you are faced with that black screen and a white flashing cursor, you have to be creative. A bit like being a painter with a blank canvas in front of you. I also learnt to be brave and not to seek perfection, and to accept failure. Because how many of you have done any programming in your lives? Quite a few of you. You will know the frustration of programming well, which is that you have this great idea, you type it all in perfect code, obviously, and then you hit run and it just says, no, error on line 43. And then you have to try and work out what that error was. So learning to program taught me that it was okay to get those messages, to actually learn from those messages, to go back and look at the code and try and make it better. And it taught me that perfection is just not achievable. Certainly not the first time around, probably not the 100th time around. And these are really good life skills. And there's a really great talk, a TED talk, by Reshma Sajani, who founded Girls Who Code in the US. And she does this TED Talk where she talks about the fact that being perfect holds women back. Because if you think about young women, or girls, they're told to be neat and tidy, to look perfect, to be kind, to be nice. And boys are taught to climb that tree, to scrape their knees, to fall over and to get in a fight. And those mean that as we go through our lives, we're almost afraid to fail at things, and that means we don't try when we could. So I was lucky, because when I was a child I learnt to program, and Reshma suggests that programming is a really good way to teach girls those skills. And that's why the work of Technocamps is so brilliant, because that's exactly what it's doing. I was also lucky because I had lots of really great opportunities. And Jen talked about opportunities in her talk as well. It's about having those opportunities and being brave enough to take them. So when I was working in an FE college, we franchised a course from the University of South Wales, a foundation degree in IT security, and they asked me to lead it. And I was not really that keen, if I'm honest, because I was a little bit afraid of having such responsibility, and I didn't really know anything about cybersecurity at the time. But I did it, and I'm confident that I wouldn't be standing here today if I hadn't taken that opportunity. Because later on, I then went and worked at the university directly, and not long after being there, I took a role up as head of cybersecurity for their teaching cybersecurity team. And that opened lots and lots of doors for me. It got me into places that I would never have otherwise got into. So I started having conversations with Welsh Government. I started having conversations with the National Cybersecurity Centre. And those opportunities were brilliant, but that's where I really saw the gender gap in the tech industry. Because as I was in a more senior position, it was much clearer to me that women weren't getting into those senior positions. And I joined the Cyber Wales network, which is a fantastic network of organisations that are working in cybersecurity. And I can remember looking at a photograph from one of their meetings that they posted up on Twitter. And I looked at it, and it was taken from the back of the room. And I realised that of that room full of about 50 or 60 people, almost all of them were men. And I thought, I wonder if there would be an appetite for a network for women, where women could get together and talk to each other about cybersecurity and celebrate each other and the work that they're doing, but also give each other that moral support, really, that we need so much. And I suggested it to the founders of Cyber Wales, and they were very supportive, and that's how Women in Cyber Wales was formed. So we started in September 2018 with 16 people, and we now have over 200 members, which is fantastic. Another thing that I got the opportunity to get involved in when I worked at the university was outreach. We used to have schools come in, and we used to do cybersecurity sessions with them to try and inspire them and to show them the breadth of opportunity that there is in digital and cybersecurity careers. And that was something I found I was really passionate about. I absolutely loved getting young people together and seeing their faces light up when they solved a cryptography puzzle or when they managed to break the password on a file. And that was absolutely brilliant. And I also found that was a great opportunity for me to influence young girls and show them the opportunities that existed for them in cybersecurity. And through that, I nurtured my links with the National Cybersecurity Centre. I became a CyberFirst Ambassador and now work extensively with young people in terms of inspiring them. And we were lucky enough at the university to host a couple of the CyberFirst Girls competitions, which brings cybersecurity in a competitive way, but just for girls, in Year 8, just before they choose their GCSEs, so great timing. And I've gone on to do lots and lots of outreach work as well. But it's easy to stand here and it to look all, like everything was always rosy. It certainly wasn't. And I have had some really, really dark times during my career where I have felt very challenged and very uncertain about what I'm doing. And I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but to give you a flavour, I was once told that everything that I do is completely pointless in relation to outreach and the women in cyber work that I was doing. I also confided once in a senior person that I was thinking of applying for a promotion, and I was told not to apply for it unless I can meet 100% of the criteria. Now, we all know that women rarely apply for something if they don't meet 100% of the criteria, because we like to know that we're going to be able to do the job, whereas a man would apply for it if he could do about 60% of the criteria. That job spec was a page full of A4 with tiny little bullet points of all the things you needed to do. There is no way on earth that anybody would have been able to meet all of those criteria. But I didn't apply for the job. And I'm glad, retrospectively, I'm glad I didn't. But during these difficult times, what I did was a lot of inward thinking. What are my values? How do I feel about things? Why do I do the things that I do that are completely pointless? And I'm going to return to my book theme here, because there are a couple of books that really helped me during this time. I just wanted to share them with you. Now, the first one is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's a very flippant look at the gender disparity that we see in the sector, and in fact in business in general. So it's called How to Be Successful Without Hurting Men's Feelings. It's a very, very silly book, and it won't be to everybody's taste. But at the time, I found it was really helpful because it made me laugh, and I needed that so much. And what it did was it put into pictures a lot of the things we feel as women. So I've got one here for you. I can't see it because I've got my glasses on, but it's something like, I think I deserve this promotion. And when the man says it, it's seen as confident, and when the woman says it, it's seen as arrogant. And I think we feel that a lot, and I think what this book really did for me was it made me realise just how ridiculous some of the things that we put upon ourselves really are, because it just sort of throws a different light on it, that you can see that, yes, that is crazy, that's not how we should see ourselves at all. And I don't know if you can just see, but just in the book cover there is a picture of a woman with a moustache on, and the author, Sarah Cooper, says that if all else fails and you're seen as threatening, pop a little moustache on, because then everybody will think you're a man and you will get away with it. Which obviously is ridiculous, but that sort of humour helped a lot at that time. And the other book I really like, and I've got so many corners turned down in this book, there's so many sort of little sound bites that are great, is You Are a Badass. I apologise if that language offends anybody. But I really, really like this. I wish I had my glasses, because there's a quote I was going to read to you, but I don't think they're going to be able to see it. I'm wondering if one of my colleagues would grab my glasses from my bag, please, while I just talk you through the book. Thank you. Amazing. So this book is all about not wearing that moustache. It's about being yourself. It's about being a woman and being proud of it. But it's also about following your dreams and having faith in yourself. And I am going to read you this quote because I really like it. It is a little bit long. So, you are perfect. To think anything less is as pointless as a river thinking that it's got too many curves, or that it moves too slowly, or that its rapids are too rapid. Says who? You're on a journey with no defined beginning, middle, or end. There are no wrong twists and turns. There is just being. And your job is to be as you can be. This is why you're here. You are the only you there is and ever will be. Do not deny the world its one and only chance to bask in your brilliance. And that's by the author Janice Sincero. And I love that quote, because it's about being you, being your authentic self. So, this is my last slide. But what can we do to make a difference? How can we improve diversity in the tech sector? Well, that first thing is that outreach piece. And I've put for girls and boys. And the reason I've put for girls and boys is because I think when children are young and we celebrate girls and we encourage girls to get involved in tech, that's great. If we can get the boys to see what the girls are doing and to celebrate that with the girls, then as they go through their careers, they will expect to see girls by their side all the way through. And when we aren't in those rooms, those boardrooms or those committees, those boys will be there, or those men will be there, saying, where are the women? So that's really important to me. I think also it's important to look at your own teams, to try and see if you have a diversity issue. So in your next meeting, at work, or anything you're involved with, have a look around the room and honestly ask yourself, do we have a diverse team here? And if not, do something about it. You can also look at your recruitment process. So if you're putting out a job and you're saying to me, we never get any women apply for our jobs, and then you keep putting that same job advert out over and over again, do something different. I saw a really good job advert on LinkedIn last year, which was a woman who was recruiting to her team of network engineers. It was about a 30-second video, but she said, come and join my team. We're looking for people with these attributes and we'll offer you this in return. And that spoke to me far more than any job advert with lots of criteria on it. Look at the people who are already in your teams. So you might have people who could sidestep into a job with a bit of training. If they believe in your company and they believe in your ethos and they're a good team player, why wouldn't you do that? And that's sometimes more than just saying, why don't you apply? It's actually about saying, we can help you apply. Let's do this. And challenge gender inequality when you see it. So last year I was invited to a conference. And I did what I always do, is I looked at the website to see who was speaking, what the programme was. And there were about 15 speakers, and I'm not joking you, but every single one of them was a man. Did that make me feel like I was welcome? No. So what I did was I emailed them deliberately from my Women in Cyber Wales email address. And I thought, I'm not going to be confrontational, I'm just going to say how I feel. And I said, I don't know if you realise this, but on your website, it looks like a very male-focused event, and I don't feel like I'm welcome. And if you want any help sourcing women speakers, just let me know. And to be fair, they came back and we had quite a good conversation. But that's a good way to speak to people about these issues in a non-confrontational way. So finally, I just want to say, you are brilliant. We're all brilliant. And what I want to do is I want to bring my authentic self to work, and I want you to be able to do the same. Because your values and your opinions and your experience is just as valuable as everybody else's. And I don't want to pretend to be something I'm not. Because let's face it, I don't look that great in a moustache. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you. Clare Johnson, everyone.